Good morning, folks. Caught it just in time. It went black for a second there. I thought, oh, no, I've missed it. Anyhow, good morning, everybody, and happy Mother's Day to all of those mothers out there who are watching the show. Pam's doing a little adjustment there, and she's just turned the thing off. So we have to go and turn it back on again. She's... We have a little problem here. There, my monitor's back on again. Pam shifted the monitor and she pressed the off button. Oh dear, okay. That's how things go when you're live. Anyway, happy Mother's Day to all of those mothers out there, and all you blokes who haven't rung your mums yet. Get onto it straight away. I'll give you 5 minutes off the show just to go and do that. So, anyhow, that's done. Now, last week, this is where we're at with the Apothecary chest. What I've done so far is last week we cut the 4 drawers, and then during the week I cut the 3 for the bottom. Now there was no need to actually do that on the show because it's the same technique I used to cut the top one, so you saw it all when I did the top. Now the process was, and you might see I've got a bit of a mess on the table here at the moment. The process was that I cut two frames at the same time on the jumbo jig. Now, the reason we used the jumbo jig was because of the spread of the dovetails. There wasn't enough timber there to be able to do it on the standard jig, so we've gone to the jumbo A to actually cut it and give us an even layout of joints on the box. Now, in doing that, when we're making lots of boxes, we could actually spread that on there, and because of the thick width of the timber, I had to use 2 clamps. Now, jumbo was perfect for it because I could use a clamp on either side, which was fine, and I could cut it quite successfully. And in the hour that we had, I managed to get all 4 frames cut. Right, so this week, what we're going to do is add some more to that double cutting frame setup that we had last week. So only we're doing it on the standard jig. So I'm going to shift that out of the way. If you don't have a set of templates, a set of stops, so that you can do a double setup, by all means give us a hoy and we'll get you a couple. Now, this is the little box that we are going to be building. Right now, it's only small. This is the one I did a test on. It works quite nicely. Like I said, it hasn't been glued together or anything like that, and it's going to be the top drawer, like so. Now, I'm not building them like conventional drawers. These are just basically a box frame, and they're going to look quite nice because we're going to put a front on the top of them as well. So we're going to do that, and we'll talk about that later because it's come up in discussion with Pam and I about what to do about the front of the box, because basically what we've got is the end of all of the dovetails, all the drawers showing like that. It doesn't look very nice at all. So well, that will come up in discussion. So now what I want to do is show you, by using 2 tables, how to even get things done a little quicker. So I've got to shift this out of the way. I'll just put it over here. It's turning into quite a nice little box. Right, chest. Okay, so we're going to use 2 tables, and I've got both tables set up. I haven't put any router bits in yet. Now, the jig that we're going to be using, you can see I've set it up exactly the same as I did with the jumbo, and I've got 2 stops here, 2 stops there, and I've numbered them 1 and 2. Got to use the same technique we used last week, but what we're doing this time we're using the H10, which is the smallest of our jigs. Now this cuts material between 2 and 10 millimeters, and the thickness of our material here is about 8 or 9. I think it's at 9. But anyway, it's inside the range that is allowable with this template. Okay, so setting it up, this is what we're going to do. Go through the same process. And here's all the timber. Now I cut all the timber exactly the same at the same time. So I've got all the ends and I've got all the sides. And when you cut them all, it doesn't matter which goes to which, unless of course you're working with grain and you want to play around with the grain. But these are drawers, and they're made from all parts and bits and pieces of hewing that I had to sort of cut up and dock up, and you can see the leftover bits and pieces I've got left over here, which I've kept. Could be used for something or other, but that's given me the 4 drawers, or 5 drawers with that one as well. So first thing first, what we need to do is set up. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pair them up. I'm just looking for colour. You can sort of see that some of those match quite nicely. Probably that one and that one, those two there. This is a white line through the middle of that one. And white line through the middle of that, so that looks like a pair. I'll probably have those two as a pair and those two as a pair. So when you pull the box set, oh actually, that's one. Try that. Okay, so I've got a white line through there, got light line through there. The colour's very muted on that one. This one here's a bit the same. So basically we've got, you know, little colourways. And then we got to put a couple of end caps. So that looks like it might go on there. That one probably goes there. That one can go on there. Another one there. Yeah, so it's a bit of a
mix and match.
Mix and match, get them all sort of fitted together so that they all look quite nice. So that's probably it. Because all the timber's the same, it doesn't matter where you put them, or what, so long as it's just a sort of a colourways. And that looks pretty good to me. So what we're going to do now is, with our piece of chalk, we're just going to number them. So this was important, and the numbers must match up to the stops. So this is number 1, and this is going to be a number 2. Put a 2 on there. I'm using chalk because I want to be able to wipe it off afterwards. They're all number 1s. 2 and a 2. Right. Okay, so what happens is that's going to match up to the number 2 stops, and that'll be up on the number 1 stops. So let's put those aside now. Over here because I'm going to be using both tables. Okay, so that's the size we're going to make. Quite a nice little drawer. Now with our router bits, just going to put a little bit of oil on the router bits. Now you'll notice the router bit's a 1/4 inch drawer, a 1/4 inch shaft. Just want a little bit, don't want very much, just enough to create a slurry in there. I gave them a scrub earlier, so they're all nice and clean. And I'm going to cut pins there, dovetails here. Okay. I need my spanners. Okay. Now I've got two different versions of the Triton router here. This one's got a smaller collet on it, a 21mm. This one's got a 24mm collet on it. So they're two different versions and they work a little differently. I think I explained that last week how they work.
Which one's this one called?
That's the 24.
Is it the newer one?
That's the new version, and this is an old version. Okay, now set up. Let's look at number 1. So I'm going to cut all my dovetails first. So what I want to do is adjust the height. Just check, make sure my piece of material is the same as my template. Now this side here I'm going to cut the dovetails in the long piece. This side and that side there I'm going to cut all the pins or the tails on that side. So using my opposing piece of material, got that pretty nice. And this one here, again using the opposing piece of material. Just winding it down, trying to get a 1/2 millimetre. Once you've done this a fair few times, you don't really need to measure it, you can pretty much get it right. Probably come down a little bit more. Oh no, leave it there. Okay. So pins are over there, and dovetails are here. So set up. Now what I'm going to do is when I set this up, what I want is I want a 1/2 dovetail on either side, and then I'm going to have 3 full dovetails in the middle, right? Now I can set it up like this, but it's really difficult to get the distance between here and here. I'll get a pencil. It's really difficult to get a distance from there to there exactly the same here to here when they're so far apart. A little easier with the jig is to turn it around
to the pin side.
To the pin side, and you can see it's a little easier to see where you are when you're setting up here. So I can move that like so. Just moving it back and forth until such time as I've got it where I want it. I'm doing it by eye, I'm not going to measure it with a ruler. Okay, so I've got that one set up, so I'm pretty much in the centre of there and the centre of there. Probably go a little bit more. Try that, might be better. So I'm in the centre of that one and the centre of that one, so that's pretty much where I want it to be. Okay. Now, because I've done it by eye, I've got to make sure all the number 1s go on this side, and then when we go with the number 2s, we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we set that up, we're at the other end of the jig. So just making sure that I've got it pretty much spot on. A lot easier to see it that way, particularly if you're doing 1/2 dovetails. Okay, make sure everything's tight. And now we turn the jig around so we cut the dovetails. Okay, so number 2 is there, face side mark is out, and the bottom of the box is pointing at my red stop.
So which of these do you want?
Yeah, the second one. Yep. Let me just get my earmuffs. And again, same process. make sure your face side mark is out, and I have lined my number 1 up with my number 1 here. And because I have a very thin piece of timber, I only need 1 clamp. Okay, so there's no need to put the middle ones in there. That's a lot easier than having to try and put two clamps in there. I probably could, but it'd be a fair bit of a fiddle trying to get a clamp in here and a clamp in there. But because they're two narrow pieces of timber, we're okay. So let's get that out of the way. And I'll bring my other bits of timber here. Okay, so number 2 and number 2. And there. To do all the job at the same time. So ears on, everybody. So this should take 5-6 minutes, I suppose.
All right, the clock's running.
Without any fuss. Okay, so number 2 lined up, face side mark out, and bottom of the box pointing at the red stop. Same with number 1. So what I have there now is I have two boxes where I have a half a dovetail on the top and the bottom, and I have three dovetails in the middle, right? Now, you don't have to set it up that way. You can set it up in such a way that you end up with 4 dovetails on their own. So if I was to set or reset this, I could set it up so that I had 4 solid dovetails on the piece rather than half a dovetail top and bottom. One of the issues that you would find with this is that we have a very small piece where we cut the pins on the ends of the pins, so that when we sand it, or when you cut in a rebate for a trench, you don't have a lot of material to work with on this part of the box. So you need to think about how you're going to put it together. just a sec, I'll have a little drink. Yep. Get the voice right. Okay, so where is it up to? That's number 2, that's number 1. So now I have those 2 done. It's a matter of just doing the next one. So that took about, I think it took about less than 5 minutes to actually cut 2 box frames, the dovetails in 2 box frames. So if you're a time poor person, this is an excellent way of getting things done relatively quickly. Okay. I just want to show you something that's happening with the jig at the moment. What I've got now, and I just need my little toothbrush, what I've got now is I've got a build-up of the resins out of the timber, and it's causing the router, or it's causing the bearing to jam between those bits of build-up. So occasionally you might need to stop and just give things a little bit of a touch up with the toothbrush, just to tidy off some of that material. If you leave it on there, it becomes a little bit more difficult, but the other problem is that you don't get a full cutout of your dovetail, and therefore your fit is not going to be very good either. So this is number 2. While I was working there, I could feel that starting to jam up a little bit, and I thought, better fix it, otherwise I'm not going to get a very good fit, and that fit is not going to look good on TV. So And so that took less than 10 minutes to actually cut 8 pieces of timber with all the dovetails in it. So it didn't take very long at all. The important thing to remember when you do this is that make sure that you cut yourself some test joints. So you have your test joints already set up before you actually have the jig already set up before you actually set it up like this. So we turn things around. Working on the other side of the jig, we have everything already set up. So we need number 1, and then remember, face side mark out and the end of the top bottom of the box pointing at the red stop. Now I'm getting into that habit. It's a reminder to some people, but to others who've not done it before, it's a very good idea, a good way of actually getting a perfect fit every time. Okay, so now what I need to do is clean out all in between all of these little bits here. And as I said before, I'm going to have a very small amount on each end there, so I have to be really careful when I'm working at both ends. You may have noticed that the sound for this round is actually going a lot quicker than that one there. There's no particular reason that I've got this one going faster than that one. Generally I like to have the router going flat out the whole time. And we have test fit, and the test fit is pretty much spot on. Okay, got a little bit of protrusion out here, got a little bit of protrusion out there, flush on the top and the bottom, so quite a nice fit. So we're going to continue with that. You'll notice I support the piece of timber when I'm when I'm removing it or separating them. That's a 1, that one's a 1. Don't want to get these mixed up. Like a jigsaw puzzle. You'll also notice that I turn the router off when I'm swapping my material over. It's always a good idea to work safely. You don't want the router running. If you're one of these people who doesn't mind it running while you're working, by all means, you don't need to turn it off. But it's always a good idea. You can see I've noticed I'm working around here with my fingers. And if you drop a piece of timber on there, you damage the piece of timber as well while it's running. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, it doesn't take that long. It's a matter of getting organised. And number 2's, that was, now I've mixed them all up. I think Doesn't matter anyway. It's one of the ends is going to be covered, so we're not going to be seeing. Goes that way. Number 2. And so there we have one more box frame, and then these are number 1s. Might see if I can find the bits I had for these. There's the other one. Yep.
I think we should have done an A, B, C, D. Also.
Yeah, I've got a problem here. I put number 2 to number 1, so it's just a matter of pulling it up. And remember, James Fingers was talking about the number. That's Fix It Fingers, for those of you who've only seen his website. Was talking about the number of boxes and getting confused with going through processing for all the boxes he was making. As you can see, even when you get them in mixed up a little bit, we're still getting, they're all number 2s, these are number 1s. Let's put them together the way I had them. That's better. He had many boxes to make for his apothecary chest in his workshop. Now we're cooking.
That's better.
Okay, so they're 1s, they're 2s, and so I've got my bits here for those. These are number 1s. Number 2. Spend another 10 minutes, actually 5 minutes. Now, now I have all of the boxes made. I need to get rid of some of this stuff off the desk. I'm finished with the jig now, so I can put it back on the shelf. I'm finished with the router bits, so I can take those out. Now remember the new version of the router bit of the Trident router. There are 2 motions to undo the router bit. We went through that last week with you. Whereas this one here, the older version, smaller spanner and just one motion with the spanner. Okay, I'll just drop those out of the way so that we don't catch anything on them when we're working. So there, this here, going to assemble them. Now I'm going to stay here until we actually get these boxes assembled. 2 and 2. So I'm going to put bottoms in them. There's my other bit. We'll leave it in the jig. I did. Another 2. So when you've got them set up, when you go to jig setup, you can get quite a nice fit quite quickly. You shouldn't have to work too hard to actually put it together. As you can see, it's only push pressure that actually fits them together. Like tap just to sort of send it home. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to put bottoms in them. You'll notice in this one here, I have the bottom recessed in there. Now the bottom is recessed 5mm down rather than 10, which is what I normally do, because normally I'm making rebates in here or cutting out little bits to allow for feet. I'm not doing that this time. I'm just going to do a 5mm drop to there. So 5 and 4 is 9, so I have to set my router bit, the tooth of my router bit, and the router bit's going to be, I'm having trouble with my voice today, so I have to have another drink. Peter has quite a long conversation there, Pam. Now while I'm setting that up, I'm going to use my lark tool to actually set this. So I'll set my height at 9mm. So I'm just setting that at 9. Do a little wing nut. And I'm going to adjust the height of the router bit to the bottom of the tool. Let's get this sawdust out of the way. So it's just a matter of sitting it on there. Winding down to the table. Probably a little bit too low. Put it on this side where I can see what I'm doing. So that's 9mm from the table to the top of the router bit. Just check it. tiny bit more, I think. That's it. Lock it in place. And now I'm just going to rotate around here. So my first thing is safety. I should have had this out before. It's now going to dive in behind my cabinet.
Cole, Peter Stacey was just asking about the overall dimensions of the apothecary chest, and David answered him very, very well by saying, giving him the initial overall dimensions, with the caveat that some things might vary slightly as the chest plan develops.
Yes.
Yeah, which was quite true.
Originally what I started with, Peter, was 500 long, 350 high and 280 wide. That's what I originally started with. And when you're doing things on the fly, as we've been doing, the original plan started out on a whiteboard like that, and I put just some measurements on to give me some sort of idea. So you can, as you can see, it's 280 wide, 500 long and 350 high. We talked about feet. We haven't gone to that level yet, so that's going to alter your height, of course. But yeah, and then each of the drawers is all set as well. So 120 for the bottom ones, as you can see, 100 for the middle ones, and so on. So that's where I started, and I've done it on a whiteboard so that I can actually rub it out and change it anytime I want, and take it from there. So measurements are not always set in concrete, particularly with the stuff the way that I do my projects, mostly because every time I do something, it's a bespoke piece. So I probably won't make another one of them, unless of course I'm making them in pairs, exactly the same size. It's just the way I work. Some of the things that I do, I like to think that when somebody purchases one of my pieces or is gifted one of my pieces, it's a one-off and you'll never get another one. So where are we up to? This one here.
So thanks to Graham Bell and Dave Rollins for helping with that answer. It was very useful, thank you. And I think it gives Peter an idea of what you're doing as a concept.
Yep. We are going to get the plans drawn up for this one. So I'm going to get, but like I say, the measurements on the plans will be as I've got the finished product here. But they will be flexible, and you are, you know, as per most people know, that you can actually change things up and down as per your wishes, whatever size fits. Okay, so
Right.
now what I'm going to do...
I have to apologise because it was actually Graham Bell asking the question and Peter, Stacey and David answering it, so sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the rebate. I'm going to climb route the first bit, and as you can see, I've got all four ready to go. Easy enough to get them all done. I've got 5 boxes here, I've got one finished already. So now it's just a matter of doing those and then fitting the bases. So here we go. In answering questions there, I forgot to do the most important part. This is something that I do all the time, and I start with a big bearing.
That's called Jobbus interruptus.
Jobbus
Sorry.
interruptus. The big bearing will reduce my depth of cut down to 1.5 mil. the way. Give me less tear out. And so I get a 1.5mm trench, and I've got that all the way around. All I need to do is now the other 4 boxes. And now I'll go back to the small bearing, the original one that comes on the router bit. The router bit does not come with that bearing. You'll have to order it as an extra. It comes with the little one on it. And now we do normal cut. So working against Now, using the LARK tool, quite easy to get things set up so that it's very already organised the way you want things to happen. So I've got all my trenches done exactly the same. Now all I need to do is just measure them. So I take the measurement, and when I'm measuring these, I'm going to allow a little bit of movement in it. So it's 5mm trench, 170, so 174 is my measurement to there. So from the bottom of the trench on this side to the inside edge of the box on this side is 170, and then I add 4mm instead of the 5. So I've got 74mm in width. Just write that on there somewhere. And now the length. I've got 240, 243, and 4 is 247. So 247 long. I'll just check this one because it should all be the same because my material is exactly the same. That's correct there. And we're good there, so I think they're all the same. So just check, just make sure. Yep. So what I need to do now is cut 4 pieces of material, 247 long and 74 millimeters wide for the bases. So I have some here. Now this is long enough. This is long enough to be able to cut both pieces or 2 pieces off there and then cut it down the middle. So let's just cut 247. And if I measure that, I've got plenty left there on the end. So ease on everybody, I'm just going to block this off at 247. This one on top of there. That's crooked.
So always checking for square as you're working along.
You're always checking for square. I forgot to do it there. Just checking 247, so we're good there. Now they need to be 74 wide, and I've got plenty of material there to work with. So I've got 160 millimeters to work with, so it'll be a tight squeeze a little bit, but we will get it. So I need to trim the edge first, just to make sure they're square. And I'm only going to take the tiniest shaving off with the saw. Now somebody's going to say, how do you know if they're square when you haven't put a square on it? And I know because my saw is cutting square to my back fence. Something that I check regularly, just to make sure that everything is accurate. Okay, so 74 millimeters. 74. Now I have got the laser light on the saw, it makes it a little easier. I know it's nearly 10 o'clock folks, but I'm going to keep working until such time as I've got those boxes assembled, because then during the week I'm going to glue them together. Perfect. There's my other two. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to round over the corners on them. So we're trying out a new way of setting up here. So again, Derek.lark makes these lovely radius jigs, and they actually work beautifully. So it's just a matter of you building the platform to put it on. back to the bench. Need a little piece of sandpaper, so I'm going to get a bit of light sandpaper here. Nothing heavy. A little bit of 320. And what I want to do is just want to tidy up the edges a little bit. You can see they are a little bit furry from the sander, so I just need to clean that off. Now, for those of you who haven't seen, the diameter of that is the same diameter as this, right? 11 radius of 11 mil radius, and but the radius jig that we have over there that Derek makes, you can make them in varying sizes. So you can get them in whatever size you like. All you need to do is contact Derek and you can nominate the size that you want. If you want a bigger radius, of course, you'll make a bigger one and you can get whatever size you like. So it's not just set for that one, you can get it any size you like I say. Alright, so I've got those sanded off. Now, when you're disassembling the box, I've got a block here. When you're using this tape, always a good idea. You'll notice I pull that off quite easily. When I press it down, I don't press it down in the middle of the piece of timber because sometimes the glue on this tape will actually tear out the grain, particularly if you're working with timbers like cedar and some of the lighter timbers on the market nowadays. So I only press it down in the corners where the joints are when I'm assembling, and I generally try to keep my fingers off it while I'm cutting the rebate. So inside an hour I've been able to build 4 frames. Okay, they're not finished, there's still some work to do to them, but at least I've got the frames made. And quite a lot of people that I know of have issues with the amount of time that it takes to do something, so maybe this might help. Okay, so that's what they look like when they're done. So all I'm doing there is I'm making sure that I refit it nicely. I don't want to refit apart. If you refit apart, cause damage to the joints, particularly with soft timber like this.
And those tiny pins.
And I've got tiny pins on the ends. I just want to make sure that I get it right. Go back on there. Just making sure that they fit properly. Box number 3. So it doesn't have to take a month of Sundays to actually have something that looks quite nice dovetailed. So have 5 drawers. Now this is the centre one. And the reason I know it's centre is because this has got 4 dovetails. This one's got 3 in the centre and 2 half dovetails on the top and bottom. So there's 2 outside ones, and that's the centre one. For no reason, just because that's how I made them.
Just because.
Just because. Okay. Now, I know it's after 10 and some of you have to take your mums to breakfast. But I just want to go through one thing that may end up part of a discussion somewhere down the track. This is our lovely box. And of course, they're the drawers that are going to go into those. They won't fit in there yet because I've made the piece of timber on the front of the box a little wider than the space that I've got to put them in. I've glued the whole box, the whole frame together. This wasn't done last week, but I did it during the week. And I've also put a finish on the inside of all of the parts. So there's an oil finish already in here. Not necessarily on the outside, but on the inside of there. And I've sanded off and planed and sanded the dovetails. Bring that camera out here a bit, Benny. I've sanded and planed the dovetails. As you can see, they look beautiful on the side. And you've got the flat bits on the top. If you wanted to put a top on it, you'd only be covering up that flat section of the box, and your dovetails will still be showing on the side of the box at the top and the bottom of the box. So they've been done as well. So didn't take very long, but yeah, again, it's soft timber, so it was pretty easy to work with. Now, the conversation that Pam and I have been having about the boxes, they have to have fronts on them because I want to hide the pin ends of the dovetails, and I want just a flat surface all the way across there. Now, I've got separators, so everything is separated by at least some sort of little partition. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the timber that we put on there has some continuity from one side to the other, and possibly from top to bottom, even though it's got the breaks in between. Now, this is one thing that we've been thinking about. The first idea was to take a piece of timber like this, and you can see that there is quite a bit of colour and grain, and so if we sat that across there, you would have continuity of the grain all the way across. Now you can put it there, or you can put it here, so you can choose any part of the board to actually use as the front panel of the box. Now, if I cut that down the middle, I could butterfly it so that I had that on top and that on the bottom. Okay, that might not work, it might work, but then again I need something for the bottom again, and that piece of timber is probably not adequate for that purpose. So the second idea was to take a bigger piece of timber that had at least a fair bit of width to it, and you can see that there is quite a significant amount of colour. There's lots of bits of bird's eye in the piece, and if I cut that down the middle, I could actually make enough timber to put pieces on there. But what I wouldn't have is I wouldn't have continuity from top to bottom, because I'd have to use 2 boards to actually do that, or 3 boards to do that, and there would be 1 board stacked on top of the other. So that might not work either. So the other part of our discussion was using one piece of timber, and you probably saw this earlier, where I can cut all of the boards, all of the drawers out of one piece, and all I could do is just cut them out and move them around. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of colour and movement in this piece of timber. It's a fairly expensive piece of timber too, by the way, because it's quite wide and quite long. It was quite long. It was left over from the framework that I built when I built the chest itself. So you can see there's quite a lot of ribbing. I've got grain colour for the sapwood at the top there, a bit of sapwood at the bottom. So there is a bit of colour and movement, and where we put the box, it's bigger than the box, which is the good thing. So I can get continuity across the box, and I can get continuity up and down the top, towards the top and bottom of the box. So that's another thought. So if you've got some thoughts on that, please jump in the comments section and let me know what you think about those ideas. Idea 1, idea 2, and this is idea 3, of course. So if you've got any ideas, add something to the comment box, and happily I'll have a think about it, what to do with it. So that was our ideas. So from here, it's a matter of finishing the frame, the boxes, and fitting those, and then putting the fronts on the boxes themselves, and then getting a finish on it. I've got the back piece made. As you can see, the back is a one-piece material. You saw that when I originally did it. It's got quite a lot of colour in it as well. So that's the back of it. That's going to fit on there when I get it done. So that has to go on last, of course. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you got something out of today. It was a second process that I had to show you about building lots of boxes at the same time. You don't need to sort of just keep that process for building these sort of projects. You could use it if you're making lots and lots of boxes to sell at the markets and so on. So it's basically another process that you can use with the Gifkins jig. So by all means, I hope you got something out of it, and don't forget, Happy Mother's Day everybody, and we will see you all next week.